Hi guys, it's Cabo here from Live to Play. Today is my great pleasure to have Chaz Depaolo with us, and I got to tell you something. I go out looking for artists with different stories and interesting stories, and I think with Chaz, you're going to be really interested to hear this one. Chaz, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Chaz is from Kearney, New Jersey, and he is a contemporary blues fusion artist. But I think when we start with his history, you're going to understand that this is not the typical blues fusion artist. Chaz, for our readers that are not familiar with your act, maybe perhaps on the West Coast or what have you, tell us a little bit about your act.
It's pretty high energy. The songs that I write are about personal experiences in my life. My first full-length blues record, Flirting with the Blues, is actually written about my battle with depression and alcoholism. Song Sunday Morning Blues and Flirting with the Blues. And my last CD, Bluestopia, has several songs about my battles through life, and one of them, most notably, is Pearly Gates, which is written about my brother and sister who, when I was 8 years old, passed away. And I was the last one to see both of them alive. And that's the conversation I feel I'm going to have with them in heaven someday.
Wow.
So, you know, those are the types of things. And some people say, wow, you're brutally honest, but every time I play, that's honesty, that's my life, that's my story, that's my therapy.
Chaz, you're currently on a label, correct?
Yes, Blue Skunk Music out of Illinois.
How long have you been with them?
About 2 years.
Okay. And all your material is written by yourself?
Mostly, yes. I do some cover tunes, and if I do cover a tune, it's usually a pretty esoteric blues tune. Like on Flirting with the Blues, I covered Stormin', which is an old John Lee Hooker tune, which is actually on a record, John Lee Hooker and the Groundhogs, and I actually played with the Groundhogs, British blues band. And then I do another tune would be No More Doggin'. It's an old Roscoe Gordon tune. So those are the types of tunes. Unless something really strikes me, like the very first song I actually recorded is the only one of 2 studio tracks on Live from Montreal, which was from 2000, which is Sweet Little Angel. It was a B.B. King number, but I just love that song. So I actually covered the Buddy Guy version of it, which I absolutely love. But some songs are classics.
Now you've been playing, obviously, you've been playing music for quite a while in your life, correct?
Since I was 15 years old, but I didn't really. And then I did some cover band things, and then I had the injury in my hand, which I'd only really started performing live when I was 22, and then I had the injury, and I was performing with this thumb injury that I had, which actually, after about a year and a half, I couldn't play anymore.
Now we're going to get to that in a minute. That's an interesting story behind that alone. But you don't really have any formal training, so to speak, correct?
It took like 4 months of classical guitar, and I took some lessons with 2 local teachers, but mostly all tablature stuff, so it really wasn't. I actually originally taught myself how to play guitar out of the Mel Bay book, which everybody buys, you know, and that's how I first started to learn to read music, and Roy Clark, Easy Books, those kind of things, you know.
You're playing a while. We come up to 1987. Something happens that impacts you personally in 1987, right?
Yeah, I had a severe injury in my thumb, chronic tendonitis in my right thumb, and it wouldn't go away, and it got to the point the pain was just unbelievable, and I had cortisone injections, and I was on naproxen, all these medications, and actually it's what probably started to spur my battle with depression, you know, to see all your band, you know, there's the big hair band, you know, so all your friends are out, you know, meeting all the chicks and stuff, and, you know, that kind of thing.
You couldn't play guitar, could you?
Very poorly. I could barely hold a pick. It was pretty tough. It was hard. It hurt.
What happens? What do you do?
I spent all my money on every doctor I could find, and I went to about 11 of them, and they all told me you're never going to play professionally again. And then in 1992, I actually found a doctor who said, if you do everything I tell you to do, he made something called a night splint. He said, put it on 5 o'clock at night, take it off in the morning. I want you to wear this for the next 2 years. And I'm going to put you on a drug called indomethacin, which is a very nasty drug with severe side effects. One of them is depression, and the other one is gastrointestinal, which I had a lot of problems later on in life. But he said, I think that this is going to help your problem. And I took that for about 6 months, and I had to start to learn to play all over again.
So Chaz, 1987 comes, you have an injury. You're hurt, music is your passion, and now you're not playing, right?
No, it was horrible. It was very frustrating. And the only bit I could play is like some rhythm guitar, and I'd play with a friend who was a great guitar player to watch him play, and I wanted to. It was almost like I likened it to a poet not being able to write. It had all this stuff in him, you know, and especially in the 80s when all that stuff was the big hair band and you know, all that stuff, you know.
But you're not satisfied with just being on the sidelines and taking no as an answer. You come back.
No, I just, well, you know, I went to all these doctors, and finally I tried staying in my music program. I was a classical guitar major, so I took all the theory classes up to a BS level. I took 3 out of the 4 of the year trainings. I took 2 years of piano. I played through this cast, and finally the head of the dean of the music department said, "Look, from what I understand, I saw a doctor's report. This is not going to happen for you. I'm sorry to say, but I know you love music and you want to stay in the industry. You're going to be our first music business major. How do you feel about that in 1988? And we're going to get you a job interning at the Blue Note Jazz label." I was into Bon Jovi. I wasn't into jazz at the time, you know, so I said, all right, you know. So I go there. My first day I walk in, and they weren't too thrilled that I wasn't from, you know, a prestigious jazz school. You know, Jersey City State and Jersey City University wasn't very prestigious to them. And the man who I was reporting to wasn't real cool. So the first day I go in there, they tell me to go into the vault and organize all the Blue Note LPs in alphabetical order, and there's 10,000 of them. And they said, as long as there's 3 of each one, you're allowed to, you know, take some for yourself. I wasn't into jazz at the time. That epiphany didn't happen until 3 years later. But that's how I started out, and then I was there for about 3 months, and then I went up to the EMI label, and I actually learned every facet of the record industry, and I ended up graduating with what was known as a music business degree in 1991, which was really a music minor with a business degree. That in the school they didn't teach me anything about music, you know, or anything about the music business, but I learned that interning, which is actually, interning is a nice way of getting treated like a slave and not getting paid. But I did learn how all the different facets of the company worked, and after I got out of school for 8 months I was delivering pizzas, and then finally in 1991 a friend of mine had an uncle who owned what was called a distributor, which was based in Parsippany, New Jersey. And I went up there to interview, and they were looking for somebody to answer the phone for $16,000 a year. He saw my background, he saw a music business degree. He goes, "Do you know this person?" I go, "Oh yeah, well that person worked in this." He goes, "Oh," and he was asking questions. He goes, "Wow." He goes, "Wait a minute." He made a phone call. He goes, "You're going to be our radio promotion guy. I'm going to pay you $18,200 a year." Now I was working part-time at a hospital delivering pizzas, making $15,000 a year, but I was like, I got my first full-time job. And the first rock record I ever worked was a record called Medicine Man by a group called Blackfoot. Rattlesnake Rick, who now plays in Lynyrd Skynyrd, is playing guitar for them. He's one of the guitar players. But it was frustrating. It was frustrating to see somebody doing something. You had to go to all the music events, and you're watching this guy play, you know, but this was my job, and I actually ended up working on a Mary Wilson record from the Supremes, not Mary Wilson from Heart, but from the Supremes, and then I started specializing in hip-hop, and my first platinum record I got was It Was a Good Day by Ice Cube. If you heard that in the radio in 1992, that was me who did the radio promotion on that song. You know, so that's where that started, and I learned all these different things, which actually I developed skills to bring back into my own career, you know, to get my career to move ahead, you know, from the very bottom. You know, I've worked in every area of the record industry, even helping to procure artists. They'd ask them, you know, "What do you think about this label? What do you think about that? This is a new product line. What do you think?" So it was good. I learned a lot of skills, you know. But unfortunately, the record industry doesn't exist the way it did back then. But I did get to experience walking into a foreign country, and I heard a song, and I said, "Wow, sounds really familiar." And I look over, and there's my CD.
So you have a unique perspective, and that's what kind of drew me to your story a little bit, in that we have the artist is injured, and the artist now actually becomes part of the machine, so to speak.
The machine, yes.
Become part of the machine. At some point, though, you get back in the field, right? Tell us about that.
Well, I had I was supposed to get married, a young woman, and that didn't work out because I really wanted to play music. And that was a life-altering decision for myself and the other person. But it was a calling. I had to do it. My mother was a Broadway show girl. She was a Rockette. I was brought up in show. You know, it's in my blood. You know, and I was performing on the stage when I was 9 years old for my mother. You know, but I had to do this, and I bought a Stratocaster in 1992. And I knew I was supposed to get married in 1993, and we ended up not getting married, and because of my calling for the music, and I just knew I wanted to do it. And I got into a cover band in 1994, And I got to tell you, the first gig I played as a lead guitarist in 1994 was at a place called Just Jake's in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. And I'll never forget the night I was playing, and I said, oh my God, I'm playing the lead guitar in a band and I'm the only guitar player. And I love classic rock. And if you think back then, Pearl Jam was hot. And if you listen to the Pearl Jam 10 record, it's a classic rock record. We played everything from Pearl Jam to Nirvana to U2 to Van Halen, all the stuff, Taking Care of Business, you know, all the stuff that I loved and listened to, Neil Young, you know, and I got to improvise all over this stuff. So I got to really develop my style. You know, our band was so eclectic, man. We'd do the Kinks, and then I'd go into Alice in Chains' Man in the Box, you know, and it was just to the Clash. It was because I love so many different styles of music. And it just, I remember that being the greatest night, I think that was one of the greatest nights of my life, that I was actually able to play that night.
But you had actually come back, though, from not being able to play at all.
Yeah.
It's a long trip.
And I just, one day, I was rehearsing with a friend about a year before that, and he heard me play, and he goes, where the hell did that come from? I go, I don't know. He says, dude, my friend Harry. And he's like, wow, where'd that come from? You know, I don't know. You know, but it was like, you know, I never thought it would happen for me. I always thought that was, like they say, you look at other people and say, well, only they're famous or only they're wealthy. For me to be able to play a guitar solo was just an amazing, amazing feat for me.
Well, you've come a long way to where you are today.
Oh yeah, and you know, pretty late in life, at 28 years old, people don't join usually to think about cutting their hair. But you know, and I'd actually had a really good day job. I left the company that I originally started with and got into a pretty good job back in 1994, and I was actually living with a woman. And one of the songs actually on the record, It's Not You, It's Me, is about the relationship. You know, the day she left me, she said, it's not you, it's me, but you're a loser and you don't make enough money. And 3 days later, she drove up in somebody else's car and I said, you're right, it's not me, it's Jerry. You know? But, you know, these are the stories, these are where the songs come from, or those things. But I remember feeling guilty, and at that time I got into another band. I was playing in 2 bands. I'm thinking to myself, I'm playing in 2 bands. This is like, you know, like you would think, I thought like I made it, you know, like but this is like all I wanted to do. I was so happy to play in that those 2 cover bands, you know. I was just so happy to do it.
You're in New Jersey, yet you are selling records in Ireland, and you sell a lot in Europe.
Poland, Canada, yeah.
All right. How do you go from New Jersey to Poland and Ireland? Tell us about the evolution of your...
Well, the Irish thing happened because my first CD came out. I went to every contact I knew in the record industry. This is, you know, where I took these skills, and I always had this in the back of my mind, that I'm going to learn as much as I can about this thing, this machine, and use it one day to my advantage.
Meaning the record business.
The record business. And I went to all the stores that I had accounts with, and it was uncomfortable for the buyers. They say, look, you know, we like working with you, we like your product, but one cannot equal the other. As far as we're concerned, you're just the average guy walking up the street looking for consignment. This is when there was, you know, there was 22 Tower Records in the area. There was 3 Virgin Records in New York City. There was J&R Music World, HMV, and fortunately enough, every buyer liked the CD. And some of them would play them in the store, you know, and a couple of them got on what's called a listening post. You put the headphones on. Well, a store on 5th Avenue, 46th Street, sold 1 week like 32 copies of the CD. And the manager of that store, a gentleman, Patty King, called up somebody from the Irish Voice and said, we got this guy here whose mother's Irish, my mother's 3rd generation Irish, but you should come down and look at him. The guy came and heard me play and said he kind of sings like a black man and he plays like Rory Gallagher. Rory Gallagher is the Jimi Hendrix of, you know, of Ireland. And he heard me play Kenny's Castaways one night and he said, I got a record company that I work with in Ireland. I'm going to see if they're going to pick it up. They picked up the CD. And actually one of their stores in Belfast, Hector's House of Music in Belfast, sold 98 copies in a month. And he said in 2000, this guy Patty King, he said, look, my father was the mayor of Galway, I know some people, I can't get you paid a lot of money, but I think I can get you a couple gigs. Would you go for 2 weeks? I said, sure. I put a band together, paid them out of my pocket, paid them a salary, paid for the airline tickets, brought the band over, had like 7 gigs. Halfway through, more gigs would come in. You know, because I just started to create a buzz. You know, people liked what they heard. So then I came back in 6 months later, that was in August of 2000, January 2001, I came back, and then I did a couple shows. The buzz got bigger. So then a gentleman from Galway Bay FM, this gentleman John there was the radio guy. He really liked me. He said, he goes, I'm going to try and get you an arts festival gig. So a local record store sponsored my gig. Shabagos Music in Galway, Ireland. I don't think it doesn't exist anymore. But I played the Galway Arts Festival, and I ended up being the pick of the Galway Arts Festival. 6 months later, I went back again. In 2002, my 6th tour, I ended up opening up for Buddy Guy, my hero, in Galway, Ireland.
Poland's another major hub for you as well.
A really big hub. I've probably done most of my European. I've done over 300 shows probably there since the last 4 years.
How did you get to Poland?
I was getting airplay on a radio station in Torun, and I met a young kid on a bus from Warsaw one day. He's actually born in Wałbrzych, but and I said, you're really sharp, I'm getting airplay. This guy sends me emails, I'm charting, I don't know how good his English is. I'll give you $100 right now. And the guy goes, I don't even know you. I go, yeah, but you just seem, there's something about you, because I'm only 22 years old. He says, let me see what I can do. He said, we kept in touch. And 6 months later, I got an email from him. He said, I found a guy who can help you out, and he likes your music. He's going to email you. And this guy emailed me and said, I really like your music. This is cool. I want to bring you over. And he said, this young Polish kid from Warsaw would not leave me alone. He kept bugging me. And I've ended up doing up to 300 shows. And I brought Leon Hendricks, Jimi Hendrix's brother. I just brought him there for 31 dates. This was my band. It was my contact, you know, and I put it together with my booking agent in Poland.
You do all the work over there. Beyond you, yourself, Chaz, in your opinion, from playing the music and being in the machine, why does that genre not work in this country, for the most part?
There's not a lot of rock radio left. I border on the rock element, yet it's blues, and blues was never really big in the United States. You got to realize the blues was brought to us through the Rolling Stones and through Cream. And probably what was the closest to a blues band was probably Paul Butterfield blues band, Mike Bloomfield. But Fleetwood Mac was originally a blues band. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
I love favorite record of all time, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, 1977, and now I know why, because in the early 1990, I'm reading a book about a gentleman named Peter Green. Peter Green wrote Black Magic Woman. Carlos Santana did not write Black Magic Woman. Black Magic Woman was originally a blues song. It came out in 1967. Written by this British blues band called Fleetwood Mac. Mick Fleetwood, the drummer, is Fleetwood, and Mac was John McPhee, the bass player. They're still together. But they were originally a blues band. The Brits studied, they know American roots blues, but they created their own sound with it. John Mayall, Eric Clapton, so forth. These guys really do know a lot about the music. John Lee Hooker, when they went there in Muddy Waters in 1965, couldn't understand why the white man was getting out of their way when they were walking through doors and holding doors open. You know, it didn't make sense to them, because these guys were just huge stars there, you know. And the Rolling Stones were originally a blues band, and they brought it back to us in the form of, you know, that's what created the whole rock and roll.
I find this fascinating that you've traced, you have a lot of history that you've studied, I could see, but why do you think the evolution has not come full circle, where some of these groups have started in that genre and it hasn't held up?
Well, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, you know. It's like the machine picks what's going to be hot.
The machine.
I met Jay-Z, and I think it was 1998. We were in Hollywood. And we're in the CNN building. We shared the same building, Priority Records, as Larry King. It's 1998, 1990, I think it was 1998, and they said, this young gentleman here, and he's with his manager at the time, or, you know, head of his record label, was called Damon Dash. And if I ever met Jay-Z, he might remember this day. And they said to us, see this young guy here? Very young man, he could have been 22, maybe 23. This is going to be the next big thing in rap. This is where all your favors go. We're going to make him the next big thing in rap. And we did. Now, not everything sticks, because I've seen us throw millions into people. I was part of the machine. I was making $33,000 a year. Ice Cube was making $22 million. Jay-Z was making millions. Master P. And you got to understand a lot of stuff about hip-hop. Just because something's famous in California doesn't mean it's going to sell in New York, because hip-hop is a regional sound. There's a sound from the South, there's the East Coast sound, and there's the West Coast sound. Now, you're trying to sell Ice Cube records in New York, it wasn't that easy. So, you know, these guys really, when I think about it, they owe us big time. Because we made them, we were the ones that took favors. And you know, when I think about what I got paid and for what I did to create that. So I figured one day the karma is going to come back, because I was very good at my job. So I set up what's called an in-store performance, Virgin Records, in 2006, in 2007, Denver, Colorado. I walk in, none of my CDs are on the rack. They're not playing it the 7 times a day they were supposed to. The listening post isn't up. I gave them a guitar to give away, to build up a mailing list. That was a way I built up a lot, giving these guitars away. I'd buy these guitars out of my pocket and send them all over the world and say, if you give this guitar away, I'll come and play in your store, but I want the ballots. I need those email addresses. That was a way I'd build up a regional fan base. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars of my money working part-time jobs. I went back to my high school job, working at a hospital in Kearney, New Jersey. Saturdays and Sundays, working 40 hours a week on my day job, playing 4 to 5 nights a week. I thought I was going to die. But I had to make up for lost time, and I was going to play everywhere and anywhere I could, and nobody was going to stop me. And let me tell you something, you find out who your true friends are when you start becoming successful, because I lost a lot of them. You know.
Chaz, let's talk about 2012. Where are you at now?
I just finished this tour with Leon Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix's brother, who I actually met when I played with, I was one of the last guitar players to play with Buddy Miles. He played in the band of Gypsies, and Jose Feliciano. It was myself, Buddy Miles, and Jose Feliciano and B.B. King's in 2006. And I met Leon, and my booking agent in Poland said, I need a way to expose you to more people. I said, well, what if I could get you, this was a year ago, I said, what if I could get you Jimi Hendrix's brother? And he jumped up out of the chair. We're in County Clare, Ireland. Lukas jumps up and goes, what? Jimi Hendrix had a brother? And, you know, in his broken Polish. And, you know, I said, and he goes, talk. I said, talk, you know. So, yeah. He goes, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. I literally called up his manager, woke him up, and he said, I'll call Leon and see what we can put together. And I went from playing in front of hundreds of people a show, thousands, playing national television.
How do you think your career for you would have turned out differently had you not been with the Machine?
As far as working for the Machine?
What did the Machine really teach you something?
It did, it taught me a lot. It taught me the importance of networking and retail. I came in at the end of retail, but I made it work. In 1998, when I was still recording my first CD, it took me 2.5 years. I walked into a store. We used to go to the Montreal Jazz Festival. I knew I would love Europe, because my first European experience was going to Quebec in 1995, and I went back like 8 times that year. I just fell in love with it. I walked in this music store called Music World, which is in between the 2 main stages of the Montreal Jazz Festival, on something called Complexe des Jardins, which is on St. Catherine Street. And I saw this stage, and I saw this in-store, and I said to my fiancée, Carolyn, at the time, I said, Carolyn, I said, I'm going to play here in the next 2 years, because this is a retail heaven, because I know that they open up those doors in between those 2 stages for 20 minutes, and band starts playing, and those people just flood in, and they're going to buy CDs, because if people see, I know that I could sell myself. I know that I could do this. I bugged the store manager for a year. I get a call in 1999, this guy, Philippe, calls me up and says, you've been bugging me for a year. Diana Krall canceled her performance on Saturday. You can come up and do 1 performance, and I don't ever want you to ever call me or bother me again. I ended up staying for 2 days and selling 172 CDs, and he ended up managing me.
So Chaz, for our readers that want to find out more about Chaz Depaolo, where are they going?
ChazDepaolo.com, .net or .org, ChazDepaolo.com, .net, .org, MySpace, or YouTube. You know, just put it in there and you'll find me.
They can find you on the road too, right?
Yeah, I do about 225 dates a year between the United States, Canada, and Europe.
And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, you just won an award, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just inaugurated into the New York State Blues Hall of Fame, which actually, gentleman Michael Packer from the Michael Packer Blues Band is the blues ambassador. He's the one who nominated me, and I said, are you sure you want to do that? And he started laughing, because, you know, the United States blues community is, there's almost what I call the Nazis. They look at a guy like me, they don't think I'm blues. You know, they don't look at the songs. They don't look at the song Flirting with the Blues that I wrote that says loving life but fearing it. Isn't a way to live, thinking of all you want to do with God's most precious gift. I hope that's just another day I'm flirting with the blues. That's suicide, man. All right? It's not you, it's me. Someday I'll see, well, I saw you and me don't look like me, because I don't sing really like a black man, and I don't sound like a very traditional sound. I'm pushing it. They don't like that. They don't like the solos because they're a little too over the top. They're a little too quick. I'm using techniques that they don't use. But the blues is about the story. Because if you go back and listen to John Lee Hooker and these guys, Howlin' Wolf, you really have a great voice, but it's about the story. And the best compliment I ever got, I was playing in New York City one night, and a rather large African-American woman came up to me, and she said, honey, I'm from Texas, give me a hug and a kiss, because I listen to every word you say, and I believe everything you're saying, because this is your story. That's the blues. You tell the American blues community that. I have a blues radio station in New Jersey. The guy won't even return my email. He won't play me. Bluesville won't play me. He said, I'll never play a Chaz Depaolo song. Doesn't read the lyrics. My new record has a new song on it called 12 Steppin'. I play 12 bars every night. Funny how those bars have saved my life. Sometimes 16 and sometimes 8. Funny how those bars have saved my fate. Now that's 12 Steppin'. I don't know what else to tell you. That's the story. So that's one of the problems I have in the United States, is the blues community just, you know, the real traditional blues community just won't let me in. You know, they're looking for that person who's trying to, you know, sing a white guy who sounds like a black man. Well, you're not going to get that from me. You're going to get Chaz Depaolo singing his stories about his life. You know, maybe I don't have the greatest voice in the world, but this is real, man. That's why it takes me 3 years to make a record. You know, people say, when's your next CD coming out? When it's done. When it's done.
Well, I guess if you're going to find out what Chaz is talking about, and I would suggest that you do, he's got a new record out, he's online, and he's going to be probably in your area or somewhere in the world we can find you. Somewhere, Chaz.
Somewhere, yeah. Constantly.
Really a pleasure to meet this gentleman, and I will tell you, he has a very interesting personal story, and I would tell anyone watching this, if you get the chance, go out and see him play. You've got to go see it live. You're a live guy.
I'm a live guy, but you know, I'm working on an acoustic record. If people don't realize that, I'm going to put out an acoustic EP called Flirt and Acoustic, because my third CD was actually called Flirtin' with the Blues. So this is another side of me that people. It's not over the top. It's going to be a very, very traditional sounding record, you know, and so I'm pretty excited about it because it's something completely different. Just 5 songs, just enough. And then I have a new record, Serendipity, that'll be out in probably February, March of 2013. And I have a book coming out that's going to be released in Poland because I do a lot of clinics and workshops in Poland, so I'm going to put together a primer, and it's going to be written in Polish. It's going to be just translated in Polish, just for the Polish market.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Dziękuję.
Folks, Chaz Depaolo, thank you. Great job, John.